Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle, and this month we are catching up on Troy Duffy. Actually, we're catching up on Irish-themed cinema, and we're working through An Evening with Troy Duffy. And this week we're working on a Troy Duffy crushed beer can by the name of the Boondock Saints. His directorial debut. Did you catch my joke there? Like a Spike Lee joint, a Troy Duffy crushed beer can.
Very clever, sir.
Thank you. So this was he wrote the script for this, and as we've touched on the documentary Overnight, one of the things that got the deal was that he wanted to direct the movie, and Harvey Weinstein, who had discovered Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino, was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll let him direct this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we kind of agree, like it's pretty impressive that this movie was actually pulled off. And as you said before we started recording, this isn't a bad movie. I definitely find it harder to revisit personally because I've seen it so many times when I was young.
Okay.
So going back, like I could only get past like the first 20 minutes the first time I tried to sit through it. Because I'm like, okay, I need to take good notes, and I'm just not in the right headspace right now to try to watch this. So I had to split it up.
Yeah, I had seen this movie, I think, exactly once before, when I was about maybe 13 or probably 14 or 15, which I think, as I said on our episode about the documentary Overnight, all about the director and writer Troy Duffy, I feel like the only appropriate age to see the Boondock Saints is about 13 to maybe 17, not quite 18. Because in a lot of ways, like Troy Duffy as a person, seeing him in Overnight, I get the sense that he has kind of a immature mindset, and it extends to his writing style too. So like a lot of the content in this movie, I think I enjoyed it more when I was a teenager, but now when I come back to it, like you had said, it's not a bad movie by any means, but parts of it just feel like, oh, this is both dated and wrong.
Dated, wrong, and there's several instances where we're missing information.
Yeah, it's a little sloppy.
It's a little sloppy. Did you watch the deleted scene that I sent you?
I did. I'm trying to figure out like where that was supposed to be slotted in.
So that was supposed to be slotted in before they go out for St. Patrick's Day. So the clip I'm referring to is the twins are both naked in their hideout. This, by the way, this is supposed to be following the McManus brothers, but they had gotten into an altercation at work, and the one brother got kicked in the nuts, so he's icing his nuts. The other brother's naked, getting a shower, Norman Reedus, and their mom calls.
Oh, okay.
Their mom calls, and she's talking crazy. You can tell she's super drunk. I'm guessing from Ireland is where she's calling from. And she's saying that she's going to kill herself, and it's a really dumb scene. And I remember watching the deleted scene, and I'm like, wow. Like, for the first time I watched it, I'm like, wow, that was really dumb. I'm glad they kept it out of the movie. Because it would have definitely not helped explain why they know how to speak so many languages, because this woman, their mother, is not one who's like, yeah, you need to learn a bunch of languages.
No, she would not have been enforcing that.
Not even a little bit. She like shoots a gun out the...
She's like borderline lady from the Goonies and Throw Mama from the Train. Like,
yeah.
Just, like, she's on that level in terms of like motherliness.
She's playing suicide pranks on her sons on St. Patrick's Day. They should have been. It was St. Patrick's Day. It was the day that she did it too. So maybe that's like an April Fool's Day too in Ireland. I don't know. She got them.
They do say at one point, I think in the scene prior to that, right before the workplace altercation, like, give us a break. It's St. Patrick's Day. I don't know enough about like actual St. Patty's Day traditions other than corned beef and cabbage, but maybe there is some kind of like April Fool's Day thing associated with it. I feel like now that you're replaying that scene, the deleted one, I feel like chunks of it got repurposed and added to other scenes in the movie. Like for instance, her sense of humor. Both the brothers, the McManus brothers, seem to embody that in some ways. Like when they're dealing with Mr. David Della Rocco.
Yeah.
And then he also does the I'm gonna kill myself gag later on in the movie. So I feel like maybe it was decided that this isn't gonna work. Also, the mother doesn't really seem to have a place in this story. Nor do any women apparently.
I just assumed that she was dead. Honestly.
Yeah, I did too. So I can see why they excised this scene in particular.
So we're actually recording this on St. Patrick's Day, and I believe we dropped overnight today. So this is coming out a little bit after St. Patrick's Day. But this podcast, Trevor and I tend to pick movies that the other one hasn't seen, and we set that aside because we've both seen this one, and I've definitely seen the second Boondock Saints movie. But we're trying to go at this glass half full. Try to find some good things from the movie, even though it definitely has some issues. But yeah, so I'll just if you haven't seen the Boondock Saints, I'm surprised you're listening to this. I can lay out the plot real quick. Two brothers who are squatting in a loft in South Boston are getting into a little bit of trouble with the Russian mob, and God tells them that they have to start killing mobsters in some way or another. And they start doing that, and then that's it. That they just do that, and then
I was about to say you can just cut it there.
Yeah,
that's the plot. Two brothers have a vision or hear the voice of God and go out and start killing people.
Yep.
Merry mishaps ensue. Directed by Troy Duffy, starring Sean Patrick Flannery, and who I don't know what he's up to these days, but Norman Reedus, of course. You know him from The Walking Dead or Blade 2.
Yeah. So,
and don't forget Willem Dafoe.
And of course,
definitely the highlight of the movie.
The only good part of the movie.
Yeah, actually, you're pretty much on the mark. Although there was at least one other character that I enjoyed.
Jacovetta?
In the wrong. Yeah.
Jacovetta, absolutely.
He was great. I really enjoyed him.
He's very charismatic. They needed a little bit more of him, honestly. Cause
I know. I could have watched a whole movie of just him.
I actually read up on Jacovetta. The guy who played him, he's lived all over the place. I thought he was really Italian, but he was born, I think, in America. He lived in Canada. He lived all over the place. But he's not actually Italian, I don't think, which completely fooled me because I'm like, I thought I did a pretty decent job.
I mean, I think he has Italian lineage, even if he
is not directly,
culturally Italian. But I just pulled up his page here and it says English-born Canadian.
Yeah.
Born in London to Italian parents. So yeah, he's ethnic Italian.
There we go.
But yeah, shall we get to the film?
Yeah. So we cut. I think we just get an opening scene where it just says South Boston, Massachusetts, St. Patrick's Day.
Fancy helicopter shot that lasts about 5 seconds, so maybe that tells you what our budget is here.
Oh, you can tell they had a day of helicopter shots.
Yeah, we had half a day of helicopter shots.
Yeah, you're right. The sun's in the same place.
Yeah, it's like a shot of some dilapidated factory towers, and it says South Boston, St. Patty's Day.
And we go to a church midday. I guess people go to church midday. And there's a priest talking, and they're like, yeah, we brought in this, or we're like, here, I'm introducing this other priest to talk, and he's like, thank you for coming all the way across town to talk today. And this priest just starts giving his sermon kind of about how people are bad and good people don't do things about it or something. And the McManus brothers, who are either too cool or too Irish to wait for the sermon to be over with, walk up to what is that thing called?
It's a statue of Jesus.
Yeah, the statue of Jesus. And
I don't know what you call it, but
and do some praying. And
they kiss his feet, man.
Yeah, the guest priest wants to go stop them. I'm like, yeah, try this shit at Joel Osteen's church, man. They'll knock you down. That dude's got money. But yeah, the one priest goes to stop him, and the other priest is like, hey, no, we don't do that, which doesn't make any sense in the movie.
Yeah, the placement of this scene felt very strange because their reputation in this neighborhood feels like they're made men of some sort.
Yeah.
This seems like something Jack Nicholson would do in The Departed.
Yeah, this is
these guys immediately after the scene are shown to just be like meat packing plant guys.
Yeah, these guys. This would be a scene for the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it's very confusing because it certainly feels more appropriate for the end of the film.
Actually, now that I think about it, maybe it is. It is the end of the movie. We just didn't realize it.
Well, the opening montage of this movie, while beautiful musically, the editing of it is a little maddening. It's very bizarre, very fragmented. I had a lot of objections to the opening montage. Again,
I figured you would.
The Irish folk music that plays over it is, aside from a couple of choice lines in the movie, the single most memorable thing about this movie for me. I remember listening to that opening piece of music, a handful of times on my Walkman when I was a teenager. But yeah, it feels like it belongs at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get this scene where they're leaving the church, and the guest speaker is droning on and on about a murder that occurred. And there were tons of witnesses, and nobody did anything about it. Apparently, this is a true story. It says the murder victim by the name of Kitty Genovese. So this was an actual incident in 1964, wherein many, many people witnessed a horrible murder and did nothing about it. And I think when they leave the church, they have like a choice line of like the Monsignors like getting the idea now, which again reinforces the fact that this should be the end of the movie.
Yeah,
that they have influence over their surroundings, as opposed to where we initially see them as meat packing plant workers.
Well, I mean, you could say that they are going from the church to the meatpacking plant, arguably, but also the way the way this movie's edited, it could be the scene after they talk to Billy Connolly. Like, they could be going back to the church.
It
possibly.
could be, but that's asking a lot of your audience to
It
remember.
It is.
This entire movie suffers from Tarantino syndrome.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, this movie came out in 1999. I don't actually know when it was written. Probably prior to 1997, because that's when the documentary Overnight.
The day after he watched Pulp Fiction is the day.
Yeah, that's my guess. Because the non-linear sequences in this film, the non-linear narrative, was popularized by Tarantino.
QT, yeah.
Yeah, and in the 90s, this was kind of inescapable among bro dudes who had a thing for the Tarantino style, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So this whole opening montage keeps cutting back and forth between like some pretty good shots of the Boston locales.
Yeah.
And it shows them at work, and they're horsing around. Like, I think Norman Reedus smacks Sean Patrick Flannery with a hunk of meat. That is unsanitary and probably not a good thing to do on the job.
Wash your fucking hands.
No joke. Like, for real, man. You're handling people's future food.
Ugh.
But yeah, I think this is when a very large woman is introduced to them on the job, and they're asked to train her.
Yes, he also, Troy recently watched PCU, I think, and learned that some women have feminist views of certain phrases, and he maybe to provoke her, maybe he doesn't realize where it came from. He says the rule of thumb. He's trying to tell her something, and she makes a scene, and she looks like a trucker. Like she's a big lady. Like she's got sleeveless.
She looks like the lady in The Fifth Element that they try to pair Corbin Dallas up with on his mission.
Honestly, it might be.
I think it might be.
It might be the same actress. I'm not sure. But she does make a scene. She's like, rule of thumb. She's like, she tells the rule of like men were allowed to beat their wives with a stick as long as it was no thicker than their thumb. And I was like, rule of thumb? Well, at least you learned something from this. And to provoke her a little bit further, just to mess with her, the brother's like, well, maybe they should have called it rule of wrist. Can't really do any damage with rule of thumb. And it just makes her mad, and she ends up kicking the one brother in the nuts, and then the other brother comes in and knocks her out.
Oh yeah, it just like full on all four knuckles, like knuckles to face. Like, this is not a slap. This is not a shove. This is a punch in the face.
Title sequence: violence towards women.
Yeah, that's how you want to ease your audience into the cold bath.
I mean, yeah. Okay, I mean you
like,
definitely have.
I guess we're in it.
I mean, you definitely got our attention. So we'll go with that. So this movie we cut to like they don't get fired, obviously. And these guys are a big deal at this meatpacking plant. Like they must be very, very charismatic because they have they're a big deal. You know,
they're very much Leonardo DiCaprio in the cargo hold of the Titanic. Like,
yeah,
everybody seems to know them and love them. Like they're hot shit at the meatpacking plant.
And we get to the bar, and I was gonna say, Trevor, like thinking back on this movie, I'm like, man, these guys in the bar for St. Patrick's Day, I'm like, that's not a very full bar, but also at the same time, that's a pretty shitty bar, and that's probably about as busy as it's gonna get on St. Patrick's Day. That's not the one where the fun friends are going in to grab a drink. I'm like, no, that's a locals bar for older guys. That's not a fun St. Patrick's Day bar.
It's a pretty shitty bar, and this is a movie that had its budget cut in half prior to production.
Yes.
Extras are expensive, and I think it's telling that half of the extras in the scene are the director and his band.
And this movie does something which I hate. I don't know if QT does this in his movies, where we introduce the character with a freeze frame, and we explain it to you.
You beat me to it, man.
I hate it so much.
This is, to me, Kyle, I watch a lot. Let me tell you something, brother. I watch a lot of direct-to-video crap, like a lot. And one of the key signs in determining the quality of the picture going forward is if your shitty direct-to-video action movie has freeze frames and on-screen titles to introduce new characters, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. Well,
it's just simple math.
There is one movie that I will defend it, and that is Can't Hardly Wait. Because when we were introduced to the characters in that movie, we were given it's their yearbook quote. Like they get their activities, their name, their quote that they have, and it adds to the characters, and they're kind of funny. So I'll give Can't Hardly Wait. I'll give them that because it's specifically supposed to be yearbooks.
It absolutely can be done well. It really can. In fact, it's something I could see myself doing at some point if I was making a short film or something. Because it is a fun shorthand. The main thing you need to keep in mind is that it raises your standards. If you're going to introduce a character in this fashion, you need to make that character a character.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think they had on-screen titles for the characters in Snatch. But each one of those characters, when they're introduced to us via, Montage or what have you, they are very distinct, very colorful characters. Well, I think that's very important. If you're going to throw this character at the audience and say, "Look at this guy. Remember his name. Remember what makes him distinct," you better give him some colorful elements that actually earn that.
Yeah. Well, I think in Snatch we just get everybody introduced up top. Like it's not throughout the movie like this. I mean, we introduce Ron Jeremy and Yakavetta the same way. If it's all at the top like they do in Snatch, I'm like, that's okay. And there's cool names there too. Bullet Tooth
when
Tony.
you do it at the top, that's really cool because it gives the audience something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you establish that each and every one of these people will be given screen time at some point and will be worth your time, you start to look forward to like, oh, what about that weird guy with the funky glasses? Like what's he gonna do? I mean, it's like watching a kung fu movie and there's like the one little guy in the corner with his arms folded and you're like, what's he going to do? Like, he hasn't moved yet. It's like, he's going to be super awesome, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you got to get the audience like hyped for what's to come. And if you do it up front, it's a way to tease what's to come.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how were the McManus brothers going to introduce Rocco and what he does for a living other than just giving it a title?
Well, I don't think the McManus brothers would be introducing much of anything because they are the most paper-thin characters you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
I got nothing from them this whole time other than they're vaguely Irish, overeducated, and good at everything.
Vaguely Irish is a great way to describe them. So we get all the boys in the bar and they're having drinks, and we get to, looks like closing time, which I'm gonna call bullshit on this. There's no way that these guys on St. Patrick's Day are gonna be able to compose themselves like this when the bar is closing. Like, these guys have already pissed themselves, or they've already passed out. Like,
they're formulating clean, distinct thoughts, and they're speaking in sentences, and
they're
they
having
have
a
both
conversation.
Their eyes open. They're not, rocking back and forth or on the floor swimming.
I don't remember most of the St. Patrick's Days that I went out, because you're kind of not going to. That's the thing. Like, they could be having a philosophical conversation right now with the bartender, but not. They're just making fun of him for having Tourette syndrome.
This is where the immaturity starts to rear its ugly head a little bit. I mean, the first instance was definitely the large woman with the feminist agenda.
Yeah,
that seemed very snide and very, I don't know, immature. But
yeah,
having a bartender with Tourette's is like shorthand for, it's like Beavis and Butthead kind of humor, where it's like it's stuff you don't have to think about. It's just funny because it is.
My note says the bar is closed. They should be drunker.
And I think you're right.
So I believe the Russian guys come in. This big Russian bear comes in, and he's like, "Hey, you guys He's like, "You gotta close the bar." And they're like, "Nah, we don't want to close the bar." And it kind of smarts off, and I think he smacks their drinks out of their hands, and then we fade away.
So, Kyle, there's a little thing called plantings and payoffs. It's like screenwriting 101.
Yeah.
So an example I'm reminded of is like in a video game where there's like a big monster or something that you have to watch out for. And say you run across some guy and he tells you like, "Oh man, you gotta watch out for this monster. Like he's gonna fuck you up really bad." Like, you know what makes that introduction of that monster much more impactful is if you let it breathe a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're told about this thing, you get some time to think about it and imagine what it's going to be. Doing it wrong is having that monster be like behind the very next door you open.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens in this scene, is that the Tourette's bartender is saying, like, he's tearfully like spilling his guts to his regular patrons, and he's saying like, "Oh, I gotta close the bar because these Russian fucks are hassling me." And 2 seconds later, the Russian guys show up to hassle him.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, information that would have been useful to me yesterday.
And the McManus brothers don't understand how organized crime works, so they're like, we're gonna beat up these Russian guys, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, this is where the nonlinear narrative rears its ugly head. So the Russian guy, by the way, Ivan Chekhov, he gets a freeze frame title card. I took note of every instance of this because, goddamn it, I had to.
Yeah.
He instigates like a little bit of a physical conflict between the McManus brothers and himself and his two goons, whatever the Russian term for Goomba is. And then we fade to black. And then we cut to Willem Dafoe arriving via electric guitar riff.
Yes, and the dipshit cop Greenlee is trying to reconstruct the scene, which is actually pretty funny. I'll give it to him. Mm-hmm.
I'll give that to him. That was a fun running gag.
He's a stand-up comedian from Boston, and yeah, this is pretty funny. Like, he's got these dumb theories. He's just he's just going off the rails with it, and Dafoe just kind of, the chief's about to go up and talk to him, but he's like, "Hang on, let me listen to this guy has to say." And quickly Dafoe goes up to him. He's like, "So you've got all these different theories, none of them are supported." And Greeley's kind of confrontational, like, "Well, who the fuck are you?" And, well, Willem Dafoe is the FBI, since the guys that they're looking at on the ground that are dead are the Russian fellas from the bar. It's a federal matter because they're part of the Russian mob.
Mm-hmm. So Greenlee's theory as to what went down here, and I believe we have 2 dead bodies in an alley.
Yep.
One of whom has a diaper on, essentially. His theory can be summed up as the huge guy theory, and a serial crusher.
Serial crusher, yeah.
Serial crusher and huge guy. So his basically somebody suffered some like horrible head trauma, and his theory is that some huge guy stepped on him.
Yeah, he's
which
pretty
is
dumb.
pretty amusing because you can tell from his demeanor, and like he's got a leather jacket and a bit of swagger to him. Like you can tell he's like pretty self-satisfied. He's like, yeah, figured that out all by myself. How about that? Yeah, Dafoe very, very, very quickly puts him in his place. And this is where we very, very, very quickly are informed that Mr. Dafoe, his character, Agent Smecker, is that right?
Yes, Paul Smecker.
Is a gay man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Kyle. There was like five gay people in 1999.
I mean, in all honesty, like it's not that bad of a gay character.
It's not. It's really not.
There are other ways that he's other ways that the director is offensive in this movie, but somehow it wasn't with the one gay character in the movie.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there was some conflict between Dafoe and Duffy over the portrayal of this character, because sometimes it's very overt and sometimes it's very subtle, and I mean, leave it to your own personal opinion on which portrayal you'd prefer, but there are some like subtle acting ticks here and there that I thought were actually quite good.
Willem Dafoe, I think what freedom, I think he has a little bit of freedom with the character, a little bit, and that little bit is what makes it good. If this had been anybody else who would have listened to Troy Duffy, I'm sure the character would have been like Jack from Will and Grace. It probably would have been really, really bad. But he does a good job. And we learn quickly that Willem Dafoe is going through the crime scene. He throws on his CD player, his CD Walkman. You don't really realize how old a movie is until you see a Walkman come out. And he's listening to some kind of opera, and he's just kind of going through the scene, thinking, and he pretty much pieces it together. He sends the other officers around, like, hey, I need you to go look and see if anybody's had water damage, because he's suspecting that maybe because the guy who I think was beat to death with the top of the toilet.
And there's porcelain dust everywhere. Yeah. like there's just like white powder everywhere. So clearly some sort of bathroom fixture was involved.
Yeah. I do like his coffee order from Greenland. He's like, why don't you get me a cafe latte?
Yeah. Oh, it's a fun way of him like dismissing the detective who was working on the case just a few minutes earlier. And it's a running gag throughout the movie, and I actually thought it was pretty amusing.
Yeah.
This sequence here where he's listening to his Walkman and he's piecing together what may have gone down here is pretty good filmmaking. Camera work's a bit drifty. Like I feel like maybe the blocking between the cinematographer and the actor, Willem Dafoe, maybe wasn't that coordinated. Maybe it was thrown together very quickly, where it's like I don't quite know where he's going to go when, but just follow him. But it's entirely wordless. It's just him kind of doing a little dance through the crime scene, and you can see like through his facial acting and his body language that's like, oh, he's piecing things together. And he notes that a gun was discharged a couple of times on the scene, and that's like one of the bigger elements that he discovers here. And one of the subtle tells that of his character's sexuality here, and more importantly, the other character's reaction to it, is he says a couple lines. I think like he asked his coffee order actually, cafe latte, twist of lemon, sweetened milk.
I thought he said sweet and low.
Sweet and low.
I think he said sweet and low.
We cut to a shot at like a couple other detectives on the scene, and they kind of like give each other an elbow nudge, which is interesting because I could totally see that actually happening, among the Boston PD or something.
Yeah.
And at one point, he's instructing a beat cop when he's asking him to look into any leaks in the building. He puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, and again we cut back to the other cops like going, It's like, oh, he's one of them. It's small details that it might go a long way. Especially since we can see those characters later, their opinion of him change throughout.
Very
the film.
much,
very much so. So initially, you can tell they're a little standoffish with him, but later on, we'll find that they all come to like respect each other mutually.
Well, I mean, you can be kind of standoffish until you realize that the person who's basically in charge of you is way smarter than you, which I think they figure out pretty quick. Actually, we figure out right after one of the cops says, "Hey, a lady in this building says that there was leaking," and like, what kind of building is it? He's like, "It's all just squatters and like illegal immigrants sleeping here." And they go up to the top floor, and Greeley's still not having it. And this is where he says, "I might just be wanting a bagel with my coffee." So
that's pretty much the signature line in the movie, aside from one other that comes towards the end.
Yeah, they get to the McManus brothers. Shit. Okay, real. The odds of one of these guys getting laid, it seems like almost impossible because they're attached to the hip, and their apartment is disgusting. They don't even have a door for the pooper. Like, it's just a toilet in a room with showers and beds. That's
it looks like a room where Mel Gibson would be tortured in right before he kills a bunch of people.
Literally, he was just tortured in Lethal Weapon 1 up there. Like, that's
it's
where
Lethal Weapon. It's either Lethal Weapon 1 or Conspiracy Theory.
I mean, I'm guessing. I mean, they're pretty heavy drinkers too, so I guess it doesn't really matter. You know,
maybe Mel Gibson like bunks with them when he's in town or something.
He probably does.
He's like, so hang on, you guys have like electrical wiring you can hook up to me. Like, I need that to get to sleep. You know, I also need people that I can like strangle to death with my legs. You know, it's important.
So I think we cut to. Where do we go from here? I think we go to the hospital.
Because we go to the hospital.
We go to the hospital, and this is where I get my theory on Troy Duffy. So we go to the hospital. The boys are sitting there on a gurney talking to a little kid, and they've got bathrobes on and boots. And there's a nun sitting in the middle. There's 3 nuns, and one sitting in the middle has a black eye. And I remember this, like, originally watching it. I didn't pay much attention to the 3 nuns. I thought it was just a setup for them using foul language, and the Tourette's bartender to use foul language in front of them. But it's odd that there's a nun with a black eye at a hospital. And my theory is, like, this movie doesn't like women. Like, the director assault, like, there's sexual assault, actual physical assault, and let's see here, we stun gun a lady, and then there's another one. I've got another one written down, but I think that maybe Duffy went to Catholic school because he was raised in Boston, and this is a very religious, very Catholic movie. I think he might have it out for nuns. I think he might have been subject to some harsh nunnery growing up. I think,
and again, this just speaks to my theory of just general immaturity. I think Mr. Duffy has a problem with institutions of any sort.
I could see
it's
that.
a very, very common mindset of, rebellious youth. Because, religion really does play into the plot in some ways and the characterization. However, it's important to note that the iconic prayer in this film is a family prayer. It's like a family credo. It doesn't come from the church, as far as I know. So it's influenced by the church for sure, as anybody who grows up in that environment certainly will be, whether they choose to be or not. But it comes directly from like their family lineage. So yeah, I could totally see him just having a problem with the church in general. But yeah, that was a strange detail because it felt like something that needed an explanation, but never. As far as I know, it was never given to us.
And how the fuck are these guys getting medical treatment? These guys cannot have insurance. I don't even think these guys are in the country legally.
Yeah, no, I was very confused. Like, this is what you had meant by there are some holes in this story. Not like super important holes, but definitely holes that you notice when you're watching casually. So yeah, the Tourette's bartender shows up and tells them, "Hey, this FBI guy came to see me. By the way, we, the viewer, never saw that. And he's looking for you guys." And yeah, he spouts off some profanity. We get some cheap laughs of the nuns looking at him shocked, like, oh my god, this
Oh
old
my
man is
gosh, in a Catholic hospital.
most unorthodox. And then they leave the hospital, and their plan, I think they even tell each other on the spot, like, we're gonna go turn ourselves in. It was self-defense.
Yeah.
And then we cut immediately to the police station, and I had like a whoa moment here where it was like, I feel like there are some scenes missing here. Because we cut to Willem Dafoe walking up and down like the office desks, talking to all the cops in the Boston PD, and he's pissed at them because they leaked the story to the press.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want the killers to be lionized in some fashion. And he starts like briefing them on what they're going to be doing to track these people down. Greenlee objects and says, oh, these guys are like halfway to Mexico by now. And to make a gag out of it, the McManus brothers show up to turn themselves in, right way saying that. But this whole speech that Dafoe gives here, like, I was like, what? I didn't know any of this. Like, I didn't know the press was involved. I didn't know that these two characters, whoever the fuck they are being portrayed as heroes to the public and through the press. It just felt like there was like 10 minutes of movie missing.
Yeah, we don't know. All they've done is just assess the crime scene and realize that two people that lived next to the building killed two guys from the Russian mob. That's all we know.
That's it.
How do we speculate any kind of story? Like, how did they form any kind of idea of the motivation behind these guys? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about that, but now that you mentioned it, I'm like, yeah, that's a good point.
But it's all in service to a small gag of having Greenlee be humiliated when the McManus brothers walk in, like during this little argument. And then we get that fun line of Smecker asking for a, what was it, onion bagel with what now?
Onion bagel, cream cheese.
Yeah, and Greenlee's just kind of got his head between his knees like, fuck.
Fucking
wrong again.
Yeah, so they go into the interrogation room, and it's a 90s movie, man. Everybody's smoking inside. I love it. Which is probably one of the reasons why I've watched this movie several times. It's like, yeah, it's a nice movie to smoke along with because everybody's doing it. And they're... Smecker's about to interview them. He's like, hey, this is going to be recorded. And they're like, hang on a second. And they speak to each other. And I think French?
Gaelic.
They speak in Gaelic. That's right. And I'm like, that's an understandable language for them to speak. It's Scottish, Highlander, I guess, something like that.
Irish.
Something up there.
I don't know how common it is for people to actually speak Gaelic, especially on American soil, but okay.
I had to Google this because we watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and he hires the Celts to take over that forest. And I'm like, what the fuck is this dude saying? Like, and I'm like, I think he's speaking Gaelic. And Steph's like, I think Gaelic's Irish. I'm like, I think it's Scottish because if the Celts are Scottish, I think that's Gaelic. And I looked it up, and it is actually. The Celts were Scottish, and it was Gaelic that he was speaking. Gotcha. I always associated with Ireland myself.
Yeah, me too.
But it's actually
even the wrestler Sheamus is referred to as the Celtic warrior, or the Great White, because he is a very pale man.
He is the
hair.
whitest person I've ever seen.
He is the whitest person. I bet you if
Hands
you
down.
slapped him on the man boob, it would just leave this handprint just bright red for like an entire week.
So yeah, they mentioned to each other before they start recording, like, hey, let's not mention anything about the guns and the money that we took from the mob guys. Let's just leave that out. And like, okay. So they start to recount the story. Now, I personally kind of like this bar scene. That's just me. I don't know how you felt about it.
It's brief and it's chaotic, and that's all it needed to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be glamorized in any fashion, although it is. There's some beats here where it's like, okay, you're making this look too cool. A sloppy bar fight needs to be sloppy, but like when they're doing like double bottles over the head and like slamming people into mirrors in slow motion, it's a little bullshit.
He uses too much slow motion. That's one of my big problems.
That's a 90s thing. John Woo was a big influence on Tarantino and consequently a big influence on folks like Troy Duffy and other meatheads. Slow motion was very much in vogue, as was Guns Akimbo, dual wielding weapons
yeah.
stuff like that, and trench coats. And all of these things are in this movie in heavy doses. The bar fight's very quick. It's very chaotic. Troy Duffy is involved in the fisticuffs.
Oh, and the Brood, his brother, and those other two guys are in there as well.
Yeah, so they are made to look like super tough guys. I don't think any of them gets touched during this whole fight. And it needs to be said, these Russian guys are quite large. But the McManus brothers are crafty. Like they sweep the leg right to begin the fight. But
the Brood are pretty big dudes. Like Troy Duffy and those other guys, like at least two of those guys are pretty big guys. And it looks like they've been in a scrap or two, because I do like the way they start this. They start by punching the dude in the nuts, and then the two guys on the sides of them just start beating ass. Like it's pretty good. It's like a trigger, like a gun goes off and they just start beating ass. I found nice. My favorite part is the bartender shadow boxing.
I caught that too.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, this feels very, very much like a bro fantasy of sorts.
Yeah,
like I've listened to too many drunken people tell me stories of like their proudest moment where like, yeah, me and my guys, we all like got into this horrible situation. Like, yeah, we all like got it together and went back to back. You know, it's like
when I was getting out of the Navy, 2 weeks beforehand, the rest of the guys that I worked with had to go down to Florida for firefighting training. And there was only three of us left that stayed behind. And they called me one day because apparently one of the guys that stayed behind with me was missing. They couldn't find him, and apparently he'd been arrested. And they called me that morning like, hey, where's he at? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I wasn't with him last night. And my buddy who's down in Florida doing the firefighting training is like, dude, we got into a bar brawl last night. Some shit popped off, and there's like 12 of these guys, and they're all, firefighters. And it went off in a bar. I'm like, that's one of my bucket list things, is to be in a bar brawl. And everybody came out okay. I'm like, I missed it. I missed the bar brawl. But those days have come and gone. That's no longer on the bucket list.
Yeah, I should hope not. But
I don't want to be in a Donnybrook.
There's one thing I've learned about being around drunk people is that unfulfilled men, when drunk, favorite topics of conversation are when they almost threw down or when they did throw down.
Yeah.
10 years ago. It's just a thing that happens, I guess, when people get drunk and they have a chip on their shoulder about something. But this is a bit of like, it feels like a bit of fantasy, because it's like, wow, this went down very much in their favor.
Yeah.
And then it all culminates with the bartender allowing them to strap Mr. Chekhov, the bald Russian gentleman, to the bar, and they set his butt on fire.
Yeah, he's an idiot because you're strapping down an enforcer of some kind to the bar and setting him on fire. An enforcer for the Russian mob. Now, Trevor, I'm sure you've heard of different kind of mobs, Yakuza,
triads.
Mexican cartels, triads. Have any of them been friendly? Have you ever heard of them like letting things go?
No. They're very eye for an eye kind of folks. It's very primitive, but it gets shit done.
I feel like somebody told the head mob boss, and he just pulled a straight up pinhead. Just, we have such sights to show you. Like, they're gonna go Hellraiser on these guys. That bartender's dead.
You just don't do that. And what's more, you don't strap a man to a bar and set his butt on fire.
No.
And if you're the purveyor, like if you're the bartender, you need to object at some point.
You need to object.
Dude, like, what if he like panics or like has a reaction and pees on the bar, like shits himself? I have to clean this shit up, guys.
God forbid he farts. He's gonna set the place on fire.
That's a very large man that probably ate a lot of cabbage. It's St. Patty's Day and he's Russian. Jesus.
He's had three. He's had three. What is the damn sandwich? Oh no. It's my favorite sandwich. I can't think of it right now.
Oh no. Reuben?
Yeah, Reuben. He's had like 3 Reuben sandwiches that day with sauerkraut on them. He's gassy.
He's a ticking time bomb. Yeah. You don't know what you've done.
But we cut away from this and we go to the McManus's apartment the next morning, and Ivan and his goon just bust in. He's got a 50 cal handgun, by the way.
Yeah, this is the cannon, an Israeli cannon.
And they strap. I need to get the brothers down. Sean Patrick Flannery is Connor. Sean Patrick Flannery is Connor, and then Murphy is Norman Reedus. We'll just call him Norman Reedus and Sean Patrick. It's just easier.
I've been calling them the Saints in my notes. It's just easier. And like I said, they aren't really much of characters.
Well,
I mean, you get the sense that Norman Reedus is maybe supposed to be like more the younger brother type personality.
It feels like it.
I mean, they're twins, but he comes across as like
they're not twins,
slightly
they're twins.
More immature, whereas Sean Patrick Flannery seems more put together, I guess. But yeah, I always just called them the Saints in my notes.
So yeah, he somehow tracked them down without killing everybody along the way to find them. Tracks them down, figures out that they're brothers, and he puts Patrick Flannery to the toilet. He's like, I was going to kill you, but now I'm going to kill your brother. It sounds like he was just going to kill him for setting him on fire. Like, he was going to let the other one go. He was going to be fine. He's like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to kill your brother. So he takes him downstairs, and Sean Patrick Flannery is just screaming. He has an awful scream. And he's just,
It's actually, a decent moment. Like, from an acting standpoint, it's very visceral.
Oh, I think that he and Willem Dafoe are actually doing the best. Like they're
no. Sean Patrick Flannery shows up to play. His accent's a little spotty at times, but
Norman Reedus completely breaks character.
Stuff,
at
like
one
you said,
point.
his scream is pretty good. Like when he's called upon to have a visceral gut reaction to things, he does it well. Like when they're carting his brother off and he's handcuffed to the toilet, you believe that he's worried for his brother's life.
It was getting annoying to me when I was rewatching. I'm like, oh my gosh, stop screaming. But I get it. He's going to go shoot his brother.
This whole movie has a lot of screaming in it. Like, so many lines are yelled and shrieked, and it's very obnoxious at times. But I feel like maybe that's just Troy Duffy's, like, what he's accustomed to.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, that's how people talk in his world.
He's a bouncer bartender, so yeah.
Yeah. Fun detail, the Desert Eagle that Ivan has when he's taking Norman Reedus away. It's like half nickel plated. It has some gold on it, I think. It's got some gunmetal black on it, but it also has a hammer and sickle and like a communist like red star on it, like etched into it. It's a little on the nose, but it's a cute detail that showed that somebody felt the need to put a personal stamp on something. So while Ivan and his goon are escorting Norman Reedus out to the street, this weird techno music starts up.
Yeah, it's the 90s still.
Yeah, it feels like a Prodigy music video or something.
Yep, yeah.
It doesn't help that there's a guy in a bathrobe, or two of them rather. But anyway, Sean Patrick Flannery, he lets out this primal scream. He pulls up the toilet that he's been handcuffed to, and again, just like Willem Dafoe examining the crime scene, no words spoken. It's all visual storytelling. We keep cutting back and forth between him carrying the toilet up to the roof, and the two Russians taking Norman Reedus down into the alley, and then he drops the toilet onto Ivan and jumps off the roof onto the other guy.
Yeah, how the fuck does he survive this?
I guess the guy breaks his fall, but he doesn't even have pants on. I think he would, like, shatter his knees or something. Maybe a bruise he gets out of this? He would probably tear his knees open or something when he hits the ground. But, how does the second Russian die?
Norman Reedus
Ivan dies via toilet, but how does the second one go down?
Norman Reedus beats the shit out of him with the toilet top. He hits him in the back. That's where the serial crusher theory comes in, is because he just smashes him with the top of the toilet. He takes all the guns, money, I think the ID too, and he puts his brother up on his shoulders and I guess runs him to the hospital. And that's when we get back to the interrogation room.
Yeah. Also important to note, he takes one of the Russians' beepers because it's the 90s. And yeah, we're back in the interrogation room, and this is where the detail you had mentioned earlier comes to light, where not only do they speak Gaelic, just prior to the fight in the bar, they speak Russian to Ivan.
They speak English, Gaelic, Italian, German, French, Spanish, and those are the ones that, we get to see.
Yeah, those are the ones we're aware of.
And we're like, he even asks, he's like, you guys speak language French too? And he's just like, what do you guys do? He's like, you guys speak all these languages? And you're like, yeah, our mother insisted on it. And like, watch that deleted scene. Their mom did not give a fuck how many languages
I don't
they
think
spoke.
so.
I'm not buying it. But he's like, what are you guys working in a meatpacking plant for? I'm like, well, they're illegal, I'm pretty sure. That's why they're working in a meatpacking plant. I'm surprised their citizen status never came up. They're just like, no. It's fine.
Well, maybe mom was American and dad was Irish. That's my guess, anyway. It's funny that this moment, like not the whole scene, just this moment where Willem Dafoe has that line, like, "What are you guys doing working at a freaking meatpacking plant?" To me, that kind of like speaks to Troy Duffy's mentality as a whole.
Like he thinks he's so much smarter than to be a bartender.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's where this comes from. Is like these two guys choose to work in a meatpacking plant. Just like I choose to be a bartender.
Yeah.
I brought this up during the overnight episode where I feel like he has that kind of mentality where he's like, yeah, like I'm only where I'm at because I choose to be. Like, I'm so much better than all these people. It's like, no, you're keeping yourself there because you're a big fish in a little pond, and it's a little scary to have it reversed on you.
I'm actually looking up to see if he went to college.
That's actually a really important question.
It does not say. He was born in Hartford, Connecticut, and he was raised in Boston, then moved to California at some point. So
Connecticut, wow.
Yeah, right. He's not even a Boston. He's not even a Massachusetts native. He's from Hartford, Connecticut.
I bet that's something he'd prefer people didn't know about him.
I know it now.
So at this point, interrogation's over. Seems pretty fucking obvious that nothing's going to come of, like, they're not going to be punished for anything. I think this is when Rocco shows up and sneaks into fucking jail.
Yeah, I don't know how he got past
how the
everybody.
Fuck do you sneak into jail?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't sneak into jail.
Yeah, he literally like brushes shoulders with Willem Dafoe, who's on the front steps of the precinct, addressing like a mob
press conference.
Yeah, it's a press conference, and David Della Rocco just like sneaks past him into the precinct, into the jail. And he shows up just to bring them like their super gaudy cross talismans. And they have a bro hug, and he's just like, "Okay, I'm gonna casually leave the jail now."
And they ask if they can stay the night in the jail because they don't want to give a statement to the press or anything like that. Which I don't think the press would give a shit about this. This isn't a murder, like this isn't like a high profile murder case. This is just some Russian dudes got killed in an alley. They're not gonna give a shit. But anyway,
I wouldn't think so. You know,
I just finished watching the night of, and they do have press coverage of that, but that's because it's a really horrific crime. And this is because it was a horrific crime that happened to a young, attractive white girl. People are going to care about that. When it's Russian, what? Huh? No, I don't care.
Bottom of the totem pole, Russian mobsters. Okay.
So we cut to what I think has got to be one of the most problematic scenes in the film, where the McManus brothers are basically telepathically told by God. With dripping of water on the forehead, kind of like how would you say, like an exorcism kind of pose, where you're like your body's being taken over by a spirit, and you're like, oh, like you're powerless against it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about their sleeping attire. These two brothers are sleeping in a jail cell next to each other. They have on no shirts. They have their necklaces on. They have their jeans, belts, and boots on. I was talking to this with Steph. I'm like, the most comfortable item you can have on when sleeping is the t-shirt, and they're wearing belts and boots and jeans.
Yeah, no.
Sleeping.
I mean, maybe if you went for like a 50-mile hike or something, carrying a 100-pound backpack, and you're just dead. But
nope, you can still pop your boots off.
Yeah, no, you still take a minute to kick those boots off. I mean,
yeah,
jeans alone, Jesus.
Jeans. I mean, I've slept in jeans. I take my belt off and I take my shoes and socks off. If I sleep in boots,
absolutely.
I've never slept in my shoes, because if you sleep in your shoes, you've probably passed out from drinking, and I've never been so drunk to where I didn't take off my shoes. Jesus.
I'm picturing a very drunk Kyle, like waking up in a stupor and just I gotta take off my shoes. I don't want to be one of them.
I won't. I will not sleep with them.
I won't be one of them.
But yeah, so this is where it starts to get a little fuzzy. So they seem to have been told by God at the same time that they have to go kill bad people, and they wake up in the morning, kind of just look at each other. They give each other a look like, we have to do this, even though we have no idea what they've been told. It's actually just that priest's sermon from the beginning kind of resonating in their heads.
Well, there's a choice line here that jumps out. It's it's not an exact quote. I didn't quite get it, but it's destroy all that is evil so that which is good may flourish.
Yeah.
And they say this back and forth to each other. And what's more, they have like a mutual communication with God or whoever. Like, they apparently both had the same vision, or both received the same wisdom. And yeah, they wake up and they come into the fucking police station like rock stars.
Dude, they fucking love them.
Oh yeah, no, all the cops are like, I think they literally applaud when they come into the room. They give them coffee and donuts. Everybody, a couple of high fives here and there. I mean, there's a lot of white guys in the room, so somebody's gonna go for it,
We didn't even get a scene of them like hanging out with the cops and like cracking jokes. Maybe they're those kind of guys that have just a bunch of good jokes, and they're just like killing the cops with laughter, and they're like, all right, you guys go to bed, and they wake up the next day, hey, they're back. No, they just slept in a cell. That's all we know.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to Troy Duffy as a person. Like, I think this is him projecting a little bit. Like, this is how he'd like to be.
I think he's seen a few Steven Seagal movies. And, this is kind of how every Steven Seagal character is treated in the movie.
Oh yeah, no. When Steven Seagal cracks wise with the help, that's how, he's a man of the people.
He is a man.
Like, hey,
of the
cue
people.
ball! It's cue ball. Let's break dance with cue ball. That scene in the kitchen and Under Siege.
Oh yeah.
Man. Steven Seagal's great. But yeah, at some point during this scene, like, one of the cops holds up a newspaper headline that I guess labels them as the Saints, and like makes mention of the killings that happened. So apparently public perception of them is very positive. I'm kind of surprised that, like you had said, there's any public perception of them at this point.
Wouldn't be.
And what's also strange is that this comes right after they had a really strange night where they got a voice mutually speaking to both of them, telling them to go out and kill people, and they're both pretty, upbeat. Like, they're not rattled. No. like they don't look like they just had the voice of God shoot through their body or something. Like, they're fine.
Well, yeah, this is where Sean Patrick Flannery, while Norman Reedus is talking to the cops, he goes over and he must have gotten a page on that Russian's beeper, and he writes down, they're like, the boss is coming in tonight. He'll be at this hotel room at this time. Be there. They're thinking that it's still the other Russian guy. And I guess they just decide that they're going to go kill him. Like, he just randomly called back this number, and now they're going to go kill this guy.
Yeah, by the way, this conversation happens in the police station, on like a payphone or something that's in there. Like, Sean Patrick Flannery just like casually walks over to the wall, calls the number that popped up on the beeper, and because he understands Russian, gets all this information. Then he's like, "Hey, bro, let's go out and kill this guy."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they go to. Oh, hang on a sec. Sorry, I almost skipped it over. Now we get Rocco going in to see Yacovetta.
Yep, Yacovetta.
And this is where it really Tarantino's into full gear. he's first met before he gets to Jacovetta, the crime boss, the Italian mafia crime boss. We were met by Ron Jeremy. If you're under the age of 22, you might not know who Ron Jeremy is. Look him up on your parents' computer and go to videos, and that should sum it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do it at school. Do it at public library.
Yeah. I mean, the man is a legend. He has a long-standing career, quite a bit of material out there for you to check out. Definitely make sure you either do it from your mom and dad's computer or at a public library.
Library.
Other people need to know about it.
At work, definitely.
They might want to watch over your shoulder or something.
Yeah, check it at work. Cause grab people that you work with and hey, come check out. I'm looking up this guy on the computer.
Make sure HR is in the room.
So he meets him, and Rocco has a package, and Ron Jeremy's like, give me the package. He's like, he told me to give it to him myself. He's like, give me the fucking package. Go sit down. And he sits in there. We meet this actor. What was his name again? The guy who plays Jacovetta?
He is Carlo Rota.
And he's sitting at his desk, and he's just got the fancy phone up to his head, and he's expressionless. He is just sitting there, not talking on the phone, not moving. He's just listening. And Ron Jeremy, again, he gets his title. What is his position?
Ron Jeremy's title? I don't remember his, but
okay.
Jacovetta gets a title also, and I think his full name is Giuseppe Jacovetta.
Nice.
And I think Ron Jeremy is like his brother.
He was like the underboss. He doesn't really carry himself like an official. He does seem more like a cousin or a brother. He's just kind of antagonizing Rocco. He's like, oh, they call you the funny man. Like, oh, he's just messing with him, and they look like they're about to get into it. And right then, Jacovetta jumps up, and his voice, what he's saying on the phone is pretty funny. You insignificant little fuck. I like his voice. Just the octave of his voice is very nice.
You kind of hit it on the head. Like, he just has an entertaining way about him. Like, he doesn't. It's kind of effortless almost.
But yeah, you can tell he's got a little bit of a temper here. Now, Trevor, help me here. What purpose does this scene serve?
Absolutely none.
There's no purpose to this scene other than we're introduced to ultimately the guy who's going to die at the end, but we're not given any really good reasons for why he should be killed. You would think this would be a time when you would introduce that, but no, we're just introducing the guy that we're going to kill at the end.
Yeah, this felt kind of like, again, Tarantino-esque.
It is Tarantino-esque.
True Romance, where it's like you have this long, drawn-out scene that ultimately doesn't contribute much, but you're just kind of relying on the flowery nature of the dialogue and the performance of the actor to justify its existence. It's kind of like Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken in True Romance, I guess, except that was excellent.
That was an excellent scene.
That was excellent, whereas this one just seems like an excuse to drop the N-word 6 times.
And tell a racist joke. I honestly think it was just a way to shoehorn in a racist joke, drop some hard R N-bombs several times. And 6 times. I mean, geez, it's pretty dumb. He tells this stupid joke. You kind of get the sense that Rocco's kind of an idiot. More than anything, I guess you're just developing the character in this scene. But yeah, that's pretty much all that happens. And he makes Jacovetta laugh, and then we cut to the brothers buying some guns.
Yeah, the way I phrased this in my notes was the Saints go ... somewhere and gather up a bunch of guns. I don't know where they are, who they're dealing with, how they know this person. But yeah, they hand a bunch of money to some guy, and he tells them, go nuts. You can go on your 20-second shopping spree in my gun room.
He looks like the guy's not even Irish. He looks like he would be Irish. He's got the little hat, and he's just like, you boys knock yourselves out. I'm like, he's not even an Irish guy they're buying guns from. I'm like, is he just an American supplying IRA agents with
I don't know. Like, you would think you need to know certain people in order to get in touch with guys like this.
But these are the two coolest Irish guys in the neighborhood, apparently.
They're basically Troy Duffy split in two. I mean, he's so cool. Of course he would know somebody that has a bunch of illegal weapons in a basement.
Subconsciously, I think that Troy Duffy kind of gave us the motivation behind this movie because they're like, he says Charlie Bronson uses it in Death Wish. Mm-hmm. And I could definitely see Troy Duffy running through those Death Wish movies.
Absolutely.
Because this is a vigilante movie. This is, 100%. But they're going through, it says Rambo. So we've definitely covered what? Charlie Bronson, Rambo, Pulp Fiction. Luckily, The Departed hadn't come out yet.
Referential humor and stuff was, again, coming to prominence in the 90s. And yeah, we have a direct reference to Charlie Bronson and literally the Rambo knife, which, as far as I remember, was like handcrafted for that movie and didn't become a thing until after it.
Oh, really?
Because it's not a practical tool. It was definitely something that was fabricated. But
I don't like the dialogue in this scene. They're just like, he's just like, get your stupid rope. He's like, I'll get the rope. I'll get it. Here, I got the rope.
I mean, that speaks to either an incomplete script or a director who didn't know where to direct his actors.
Yeah, like what do they say? It's supposed to be cute and antagonizing between brothers, but I'm like, it's not working. It's not working.
Yeah, I characterize this as coffee talk while we're gun shopping.
Ugh.
And yeah, it does come across as a little flat. Like, it could have been more fun, I guess, if they had better rapport or maybe had a few more clever jabs in there, but like you said, it's kind of empty.
Okay, so let's get into the motivation behind them going to kill the Russian mob. Now, I said that we're not given any reason why they're going to go kill these mobsters. The only one that I can think of is that they're going to close down their bar. They're literally going to go kill the Russian mobsters that are trying to take away that Irish dude's bar, the bar. But they never say that. They never say...
You looked into it, I think, much more so than anyone else, because I don't know that there is motivation here.
They don't give any.
They don't have any.
Yeah.
They really don't.
They literally just found they took a beeper, they called it, they heard boss, and they're like, we're going to go kill him. And they have no plan. They don't even like say they have a plan. Like, we don't get a plan, why they're going to do it, anything. We just get to the hotel, and they're putting on masks. And I think I said, no discussion, just go killing. And then I think we cut to Willem Dafoe. We haven't gotten to the crime.
This starts to reinforce a pattern that carries throughout the entire film. They actually do some clever things with it. But basically, any instance of violence in this movie... we don't see it up front. We cut away from it, and then we revisit it.
Yeah.
Again, nonlinear narrative. Black shirts, black jackets, black sunglasses, and blue jeans. That's their uniform.
So yeah, we show the McManus brothers. They're up in the vents, and they've got their ski masks on, and they don't know where the fuck they're going. And they're starting to get frustrated. They start to get kind of mad at each other, and they tussle, and... this mob boss is giving these other little bosses an earful. Like, they're getting chewed out. And they end up falling through the vent. Now, Trevor, this will make more sense later, but these two brothers are hanging from rope, and they manage to take out all these mob guys. They're hanging upside down, back to back, just spinning around, and they're able to take out all these guys. Two guys that, as far as we know, have never shot a gun because they just bought guns. I have no idea if they've ever been able to shoot a gun. They're shooting upside down. I'd say that most people who are excellent at shooting guns would have difficulty shooting upside down. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen it in a movie. He says that Agent Spector's like, you see this in bad movies. You see this in bad TV. They come through the ceiling. He's like, but something went wrong. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a movie where somebody shoots people upside down. It sounds like something that Steven Seagal would do.
I'll tell you where you've seen it. And it's actually a reverse ripoff. So the movie I'm about to name ripped off this scene. Punisher Warzone.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
very clearly, if you ask me, it seems like a very clear nod to the Boondock Saints. And then I think the only other instance that comes to mind is maybe Quantum of Solace, but that was not quite upside down because James Bond was I think he was hanging from a rope and then he like slung himself up and fired up into the ceiling.
We get to them. They've already killed everybody, and they've got the Russian guy on the floor who is looking over at somebody and talking like he's like look over there, check it out, or he's like, hey, come fucking help me. It's not really clear, but they're saying their little prayer, and they've got him on his knees, and they've got their hands, they got their guns to the back of his head, and they just shoot him, and it goes black, and then we fade in, and we slow motion black and white go around to all these dudes and cross their arms and put little pennies on their heads. I'm gonna say that since that practice was actually being used because of inflation, I don't think a penny is gonna pay the ferryman to get you across the river Styx. So they need to be putting.
Also, I mean, if you're trying to be stealthy, you probably don't want to be running around with pennies full of pockets, and that shit's heavy too. Pennies are heavy. Like you could hear, how did they not fall out of their pockets when they were hanging upside down? That would actually have been a funny detail when they're hanging upside down, like just like spills out on the floor.
He must have had a roll of pennies, but all shiny.
Well, that's a major thing about the way violence is portrayed in this film. It's meant to look cool.
Yes.
As stupid as it was to have them like fighting with each other and fall through the roof, it's a bit of a mixed message because what happens and the aftermath of it is given to us, the viewer, in such a fashion that like we're meant to think, oh my god, that was the coolest thing ever. Like I want to do that with my bros. But like I think they tried to have it both ways, where it's like we have this goofy amateurish moment, and then when the moment comes for them to kill people, it's like, oh man, they're Steven Seagal awesome. But I think a different way to go about it would be to have them absolutely suck at what they're doing and have them like spill all their shit out on the floor or something.
These guys are fucking criminals, okay? Like
they are, absolutely.
Like this isn't Charles Bronson in Death Wish. Like he was looking to antagonize, like he was looking for a fight. These guys just go in for no reason and shoot these guys. One dude's still alive, and the brother goes over and like holds him down and shoots him. Like that's fucking
he covers his eyes and shoots him. That is fucking cold-blooded.
That is cold-blooded. Yeah, so they kill all these guys, and they've got silencers on their pistols, but there's a knock at the door. They notice that there's a big thing of money. Now this is where I had an issue also. It was like they're vigilantes, they're out there to stop bad people from doing bad things, but they're going to swipe the money that they have in the hotel room. Not really that cool, guys.
Yeah.
Kind of counterproductive.
It's not exactly Robin Hood shit there.
No. If anything, they should burn the money or just leave the money. But who's at the door? Who's knocking on the door?
That would be Mr. David Della Rocco.
Jafar, as his name tag. Now, I don't know what it is about him in this outfit and him standing there, but it's funny. Just him standing there at the door is funny. So, I guess he had been ordered to go in and kill these guys. Yakavetta had told him to go in and kill these guys. Well, they're like, let's mess with him, okay? So they open up the door, they put their ski mask back on, they open up the door, and they just pull him in and throw him. They body slam him onto the ground, and they just start yelling at him, and he's like, yeah, yo, it's fine. Yakavetta told me sent me in here to kill him and everything. And he holds up the gun, he's like, it's a fucking six-shooter. It's kind of a funny response to it. So his boss was basically going to send him into a room full of heavily armed men with a six-shooter to kill, what, was it 9 guys? Yeah, 9 guys.
9 guys.
Yeah.
So even if he hit every one of them, he'd still have to reload and would definitely be killed.
If he had more bullets.
If he had more bullets, which I don't think he did.
But they're playing a prank on him, basically. This is where that dark sense of humor comes in, like you were saying with the mom. And they act like they're going to kill him, and then they start laughing. And Rocco's like, oh, man, I can't believe you guys did this. And, yeah.
Now, I have a feeling that Troy Duffy really likes this guy, or is friends with him in real life or something, because his screen time and his importance to the story feels just bizarre to me. I feel like this character should have been like a one-note thing, but he is in it throughout the rest of this movie.
Yeah, I read that he was friends with Troy Duffy, and that's how he got.
I didn't read that, but I figured.
Apparently,
it had to have been.
Apparently, that's how he got.
Had to be that.
Apparently, that's how he got Clifton Collins Jr. in Boondock Saints 2. Was that he was friends with him wrote a part for him? Yeah, right.
Oh no, I like Clifton Collins.
You're not gonna like him in this next movie.
Oh man.
But so they get back to, I believe they go back to the apartment. Now, does Willem Dafoe talk to the detectives after this, or do we just get back to to Rocco's?
So these next couple scenes back to back really made me think of Overnight, because what we get is Smecker drinking some booze with the detectives, and he's postulating on the possibility of this being like a international mob war.
Yes.
It's like, okay, we have a bunch of Russian gangsters getting killed in Boston. What are they doing here, and why are they getting killed, and by who? And the whole time he's doing this, he's smoking, and the detectives are just kind of like passive and listening. Cut immediately to the Saints, the two brothers, the McManuses, talking to Rocco in his apartment. And they're speechifying to him about like their personal concept of righteous killing, I guess.
Yeah.
Something like that. But they're, talking like religious zealots or something, where it's like, yeah, we're doing this for the greater good, like this has to happen, and he's in agreement, but just the atmosphere. Oh yeah, and they're smoking. Just the atmosphere of both of these scenes and the way they're speechifying at a mostly passive crowd really reminded me of those scenes in Overnight of Troy Duffy talking to his band.
Yeah.
And like giving them like rally the troops kind of speeches, and them just looking dead behind the eyes and not saying anything.
Yeah, he wanted them all to be Rocco.
It got me to notice that Troy Duffy doesn't write dialogue.
No.
He does not write dialogue. He writes speeches.
Yeah.
Virtually every instance of a character speaking in this film is not an exchange. It's one person expressing a thought and someone receiving it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's like
there's no discussion.
It's just something that I noticed, where it's like in almost every exchange there is no exchange. It's just one character kind of like taking command and saying their piece, whereas like in like a Tarantino movie or something, his biggest strength is his conversational dialogue, where it's both interesting and integral to the plot, and oftentimes it involves multiple personalities bouncing off of each other and creating really interesting, palpable tension.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of the Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken. Like, well, it's Dennis Hopper's scene. Like, he's doing most of the talking, but it's still Christopher Walken is so much a part of that dialogue. But yeah, it's pretty good. And I'm thinking like Christoph Waltz in the beginning of Inglourious Bastards too. Like, it's mostly his scene, but there's still an interaction between the characters. Here they just say stuff, and Rocco's like, "You guys are fucking geniuses. You guys should be in every major city. This is awesome." Well, yeah, this is where I got the idea. I'm like, this whole scene, and like, it's really just three losers that are gonna start killing people who are more successful than them. But I mean, yeah, they're evil, but that's the problem. They're like, these guys are making so much money doing bad shit. And like, they're just really bad people. We're gonna go fucking kill them. And
yeah, like I said, it's a very immature outlook, where it's like you're not thinking this through. You're looking at it from like a primitive state of mind, where it's like, yeah, I'm right, they're wrong, they're bad, I'm good. And so like in a better film, this kind of exchange would have like a really creepy, like oppressive atmosphere to it, because like this is what mental illness looks like. It's like,
but no, these are our heroes.
It's like this is what sociopaths are like.
But yeah, now the boys just start getting shitty. They start.
And that was actually kind of fun.
Yeah,
how they go from being on their high horse to immediately after getting drunk in an
they're
apartment.
Not even moving. They are sitting down, just getting shitty. And there's just like it's funny here, but finally they're pretty hammered. They're hitting the pizza pretty hard. You can tell how drunk somebody is by how they're eating. Like Regis has got his pizza folded up, and it's he's not so much eating it as it just making it disappear. And they're talking, and Rocco's starts talking like, I'm sick of all this shit. I'm gonna fucking help you guys, and he ends up smacking the table where there's a loaded gun. On the other end of that gun, there is his girlfriend's cat that's been roaming around. Well, the gun just so happens to go off, and it splatters the cat all over the wall, and they stumble all over the place, freaked out. And this is where Norman Reedus breaks character, and he's like, I can't believe that just fucking happened. I'm like, there's no accent in that, buddy.
Yeah.
None.
Well, I noticed him in particular, a lot of his dialogue is ADR'd, because if you didn't notice, he kind of mumbles.
Yeah.
In every role, ever. But yeah, that I did notice that. Actually, that was a decent, like, exclamation point or, like, punctuation to that progression, how we go from, like, being all high and mighty and talking about our grand aspirations to getting drunk, to an exploding cat, to give everyone a reality check, I guess. Somewhat clever, actually. But at this point, I think they mention Donna, who is Rocco's girlfriend, and this is the morning after.
Yeah,
and it needs to be said, she's probably like the second female that's even been mentioned in this movie.
Yeah.
And he quickly hand waves her away and says like, oh, she's on every drug ever, and like you can tell he's not terribly attached to her. And Norman Reedus mentions, Sean Patrick Flannery mentions that, oh, she's probably going to be upset that her cat exploded.
He's like, nah, she's on every
and then we like segue into this weird conversation where I guess Rocco intends to go and report back to Yakavetta, and they don't want him to because they think he's going to get killed.
Yeah,
and then they get into a big stupid argument for reasons I don't quite understand.
Yeah, apparently these brothers have had a conversation about how stupid he is and that he was going to get killed. And then the Rocco's like, that's not how things are handled. They didn't send me up there to die. I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, you're no Don Corleone. So he has seen The Godfather. He's definitely seen The Godfather 2, which we'll learn next week. He storms off. He's like, no, it's bullshit. I'm not gonna. That's not how it goes. And he ends up. The boys go back upstairs, and his girlfriend comes home while they're there with another lady. They look loaded. Like, it's early in the morning. They look like they've been doing some heroin, and they don't even ask like why they're sitting in there. They just go to the couch and kind of pass out. And he gives them a call. Rocco gives the boys a call, and he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And then he just says, I'll catch you on the flip side. And then he's at a payphone, and then we just cut to... what?
So, let me stop you for a sec, Kyle. Yeah. The drunk girls do in fact show up. They don't so much go to the couch as appear on it.
Oh, okay.
Because the editing in this scene is super fractured and fucked up, where it's just like they stumble through the door, they barely pay any notice to the McManus brothers, they teleport to the couch, they get a phone call, I'll catch you up on the flip side, quick fade to black. Quick. Very quick. Rocco busts through the door like a fucking tornado. And this is all within like 10 seconds. Like, whoa, what's happening, guys? And then, yeah, Rocco, like I said, he comes in like a tornado. He's like tearing up the apartment. He's screaming about like, oh, they're coming for me or something. Looks like he's like putting an iron and maybe half a coffee pot into a bag.
Yeah.
He's like rooting through all the cabinets and just grabbing what I guess is valuable to him. And the atmosphere is really bizarre because you can tell that he's afraid, but everyone else is just kind of like laughing and confused.
Yeah.
This is when he has his he exchanges some choice words with
Rianne.
I guess this would be Donna, and yeah, there's two ladies. Donna's his girlfriend.
Rianne or Raimi, I think, or something like that. I don't know.
Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, he has a gun.
Yeah, he's on edge because of something that we'll learn about. He has a funny Ravy. There it is. Ravy. She basically is like, "Where's my cat?" And he's like, "I killed your cat." And then he says something I'm not going to repeat here. You can watch the movie. But it's not nice what he says to her, and he holds a gun up to her head, and she's crying. So now we're terrorizing women in this movie. So assault, and then what is it when you hold a gun to somebody's head? Like, is
I don't know what you'd call that. Like, it's maybe attempted murder, although I don't know if you have to have some sort of like proven intent for that to count. But,
intimidation?
I mean, I don't know what you'd call that, but he does hold the gun to himself and says, "I'm going to kill myself." And basically he's bargaining with her. Like, if she can name her cat, like if she can remember the cat's name and what color it is, he won't kill himself. She manages to get it right, thankfully. No one is hurt, but yeah, this is a pretty savage verbal assault, and he does brandish a weapon in her face. And then I guess we cut back to the scene immediately after he was on the phone with the McManuses, telling them he'd catch them up on the flip side. So he walks to like a diner, and I wasn't entirely sure who these guys were. It's two low-level mobsters of some sort, and they're in a restaurant, and he walks in, attempting to look all badass. He's kind of a goofy-looking guy, so it doesn't really work. But, and again, I'm not entirely sure who these guys were. I got the vibe that maybe they were someone important's son or something. But basically, they're making light of the fact that he survived a situation he probably should have been killed in. They're like, "Oh, we're glad you're alive, ha 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 ha," and then he kills both of them. The first shot is actually pretty artful. He's apparently seen a John Woo movie. Rocco pulls up his jacket and shoots the one guy through the temple, through his coat, and then he just kind of shoots the other guy. And on his way out, he shoots the bartender as well.
But yeah, so this is where we get the death of Ron Jeremy.
The death of Ron Jeremy. So yeah, just like before. We see the prologue to the violence, we cut away from it, and then we cut to Smecker doing his investigation on the scene after the fact. This time, though, and this is why I mentioned before, there is a progression. This time, we're cutting back and forth between Smecker and the Saints doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good editing shorthand telling you that, oh my God, Smecker's getting closer. And so, it's funny, actually. I noted in my notes here that I'm curious if Ron Jeremy did his own stunt here, because he's shot from above. You never see his face. But basically, they're in the middle of this strip club, and it has these, two-way mirror? Or one-way mirror situation?
Yeah, one way.
Where people are, pleasuring themselves and have a barrier between them and the performer. So they're shooting people through these mirrors, basically, and they cap Ron Jeremy multiple times. Some poor soul. I'm not sure if it actually was Ron Jeremy, but he gets strapped up with probably a half dozen squibs. A decently glorious death. Then we get a really uncomfortable scene where Rocco feels up a stripper that passed out on the floor.
Yep.
It's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's totally played for laughs.
Yeah, we
sincere laughs.
He's like, "Oh, I'll tip her." It's like a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally a joke.
So we've had punched a lady, threatened a woman with a gun, sexual assault.
We're not done yet, folks.
We're not done yet, folks.
And then we get a really awkward scene that, again, this is in a different, maybe better film. This would have been portrayed differently, but Rocco steps up.
Does he knock out the stripper too?
She passes out.
Oh, she passes out. Okay.
Yeah. Smecker mentions that she probably passed out or something.
Okay.
Or no, her witness testimony is that she passed out after the first killing.
Okay.
So the other 2 killings, though, are just 2 random guys that aren't really affiliated with Ron Jeremy. But Rocco knows who they are, apparently. And he insists on being allowed to kill these 2 guys. And so he does, and the way he goes about doing this is he stands in the center of the room and does the Chow Yun-Fat thing, where you hold one pistol in each hand and shoot in opposite directions. And at one point, he even like crosses his arms and shoots like under his armpits, like in opposite directions, and says "fucking Wyatt Earp." And everything about the editing and like the music and the tone of the scene kind of suggests that like murder is crazy fucking fun, guys.
Yeah.
And again, like when you actually take a step back and think about these characters and what they're doing, it's like, oh my god, these are awful human beings.
This is getting personal because now,
yeah,
like we're supposed to think that wow, Rocco's going to help them out a lot. They're really going to cut this down. No, now we're getting personal. We're getting people that Rocco personally doesn't like.
Well, now he's like using them as an instrument to
Yeah.
just murder people.
Yeah, that's exactly what's
to
happening.
get rid of people he doesn't like. Again, a very childish mentality, but it's being glorified instead of like shown as like a monstrous act.
Yeah,
And even the way they agree to going out and doing what he asks of them, like they're literally parked in a car and he's in the back seat saying, "Hey, I know a guy, we should kill him." And they're like, "You got me convinced.
Yep.
Let's do it, Rocco." It's
Good
like, I
enough
thought
for
you
me.
guys were supposed to be smart. What the fuck?
So next we, I think Yakavetta goes to see a guy who works in a bathroom.
Yeah, I think his this is another character that got an on-screen title card. His name is Augustus De Stefano, and I think it says like former mob boss.
He was a former Council Yeti. He was like a former underboss, basically.
Yeah, and now he's what, a bathroom valet or something.
Yeah, he's blind as well.
I didn't pick up on that.
You didn't pick up on that? Yeah.
No, I
Because
didn't.
he walks in and he just stands there for a second. He goes, "Fuck you," and he's got the walking stick too. Like, and he's throwing the urinal cakes over and he's landing them perfectly into the urinal.
Yeah,
Because-
I like that little detail, but I didn't realize that he was blind. Also, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
but
a pretty fun character.
So yeah, Yakavetta is convinced that Rocco is the one doing all this. He's like, Rocco is just running through our guys now. He's mad. He killed all those Russians somehow. He killed my 2 boys at the store. He killed Ron Jeremy, and like, this guy's a fucking maniac. And he knows so much that he can bring us all down. And the guy's like, "I need El Duce," which I don't even know what El Duce means, by the way.
The Duke.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
this just means the
apparently,
Duke.
it's apparently he was El Duce was a guy that the mob had hired to kill other bad guys, and he had one rule: no women, no children. But he'd kill any dude, didn't matter. And I don't think he charged that much. He just did it for the pleasure of killing bad people. Well, apparently the Italian mafia control the parole board because El Duce has been in prison for the past 23 years, and they bring him down to the parole board. It's Billy Connolly, but he's just walking with his at not parade rest, but like at ease, basically. And he's got his head down, and they bring him. Okay, if you're going in front of the parole board and you have to be in a Hannibal Lecter birdcage kind of situation, I don't think your odds of getting out of prison are very good.
Yeah.
Just saying. But we don't really see what happens. We just know that he was going in front of the parole board.
We do see a stamp on a
There is a
paper
stamp.
saying
Okay.
it says like parole approved, but decent editing here because it's actually straight out of a Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah.
It's just somebody narrating about how awesome this
Steven
character
Seagal
is, and then montage of him, doing stuff. It is directly from a Steven Seagal movie. In fact, on Deadly Ground, Arlie Ermy, I'm convinced, is in that movie expressly for the purpose of improvising a super awesome speech about Steven Seagal to be edited over footage of Steven Seagal killing people. Because you can't tell me that was in the script. That was all just Arlie Ermy being himself. and being told, like, hey, Arlie, like, make sure to talk me up. Like I'm a man who gets swiped by a bear, and I fall into a river, and I fall asleep when I get hit with a feather in the face.
I'm sure
he
tells his Bulgarian prostitutes that he killed a bear once with his bare hands.
Yeah, he tackled a bear. He killed it with his bare hands. But he leaves out the part where he got touched with a feather and passed out.
I fucked a tiger in the ass while I choked out an ocelot that I caught while fucking the tiger.
Yeah, I made a bow and arrow out of an ocelot that I dipped in some leather. And then I grabbed a bald eagle and I used it as an arrow.
I had a sex dungeon. I did not have a sex dungeon. Remember, kids, Steven Seagal is a piece of shit.
Yeah. Steven Seagal, not a good person.
Not a good person.
So we cut to Smecker, I believe.
Yeah.
No, we cut to the Saints, and Rocco is again just pointing the finger at whoever the fuck he feels like right now, and they seem to just blindly go with it. He tells them a brief story about a hitman that he had to drive around town to go on a hit. He describes it as the worst day of his life. We get a quick little montage of the hitman going about his business and like murdering a family, and Rocco paying witness to all of this. And obviously he's not too happy about it. And he says, yeah, I want you guys to kill this guy. And McManus says, oblige. Fade to black, cut to Smecker at the crime scene. And this is the culmination of the progression and the editing of these crime scene investigations, where this time Smecker is actually inserted into the reenactment scene.
This is the best. This is the best sequence in the movie.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure.
I think it's excellent. I forgot about it. Actually, I didn't even notice the progression until you mentioned it. I'm like, there is a progression. It's really drawn out in the very first one. Gets a little closer as we move along, and then in this one he's directly in the scenes.
And he's narrating what's happening while we see it happen, and he's just present. He's like on set, and we get to see him, and he's just a ghost for the proceedings. Now,
this is an interesting piece because this is one of the few scenes we see from Overnight, the documentary, and this is where Troy Duffy is giving Willem Dafoe direction. He's like, so you're going to come down here, do this and this and this, and Willem Dafoe's like, okay. And then what do I do after that? And he's like, then I yell, cut, and the scene's over. And Defoe's just like, oh, okay. And I was watching it, and at one point during the sequence where he has his meltdown, he's like, fuck, where are these guys? I'm like, I think he might just be channeling his frustration with working with Troy Duffy, because
yeah,
it's pretty intense.
It feels pretty genuine, yeah.
So yes, this is where I wanted to put a pin in last week when we talked about.
Yeah, I caught what you had mentioned.
Caught
before.
it this time. So yeah,
I caught it.
This movie was released in '99, filmed in '98, and before that, Marky Mark had been in a little movie called Boogie Nights, where at the very end, he pulls out his flaccid, super long penis. And the movie ends. That's the ending of the movie, actually. And here we go. Start going through the sequence again. This is really cool. He's reconstructing the crime scene, and as the crime scene is going along, Dafoe is actually in frame with the characters. They stun gun a woman again. More violence against women. You could have just duct taped her. You could have just left her duct taped somewhere. Nope, we got to stun gun her.
If you put away that checklist of yours, you should have known better.
If you're playing I Hate Women bingo, you're about to get your fifth
that
square.
Just might be a bingo.
That might be a bingo. So yeah, you're going through this sequence, and this is where, like we said, gets personal. This is a super personal hit. The guy, Rocco says he has a card game with wise guys on Tuesday morning? Is that what this is supposed to be?
Yeah, it's in a suburban neighborhood too.
Suburban neighborhood, daytime card game. I guess that's a thing. And he goes in, and they open up the door, and all these guys are just standing around, and it's a nice little shootout. Willem Dafoe is mirroring, paralleling whatever's happening with the gunman at the time, which is fun. And they realize that the guy's in there. They're like, where the fuck is he at? And the dude, while this is happening, bullets are flying through. He's taking a shit, and bullets are flying through the bathroom. And he stands to pull his pants up. I don't think he wiped. Just side note. You'd think he would wipe, but we get a nice side cock shot in this movie. For some reason. Not only that do we get a side cock shot, we get a trousers bulge after he puts the pants on.
Yeah. I don't know why that's there.
Other than just watching Boogie Nights, I can't see any other reason why.
It's a curious element in a film that, is violent, is profane, but never to an extreme. And it's just such a rarity in any film, Hollywood or otherwise. It's just a strange thing. It's just there.
Yeah. I mean, we can't say...
I'm guessing that guy got paid extra for that.
I
hope.
I want to put a pin in this for the next episode, which we'll get to, the Boondock Saints 2. This was an interesting... Troy Duffy has made... he's done a pretty decent job of writing a gay character, arguably. You could definitely argue against it, but I'd say that he does a pretty decent job. And then you throw this, side cock and bulge in here, and then we do a complete 180 into that second movie. It's kind of weird, but we'll get to that next week. But I wanted to highlight that in this just so we can bring it up for the next movie.
It is important because it is something that it's just like I don't know why that's there.
Don't know why it's there. I mean, I've definitely seen dicks more in comedies, which is it's always fun. It was actually it was a comedic piece in The Night Of, which isn't a funny show. It's about a murder trial, but there's a sequence in there where a guy is working on a dead body, and a lady lays down some files right by the guy's dick, and as he's looking at the files, the guy's dick is in frame with the files, and we look down at it 3 times. I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. I don't know why it's in this show, but okay.
It's a very very different spin on an airplane gag where it's visual gags. Did you spot the dick?
Did you see the dick?
Well, let's show it to you again just in case you missed it.
But yeah, but Specker's recreating the scene, and they get through. Rocco beats this guy to death with a pool cue.
It's like a billiard ball, I think.
Yeah,
or a pool cue, but
pool cue.
Very, very bro-y dialogue happening here. That again, these characters are monsters.
Yeah,
because what's happening here is they've shot everyone else in the room except for one guy who gets shot twice, who I recognized from Overnight as being one of Troy Duffy's friends. Apparently, Troy Duffy's friends are hard to kill.
Yeah.
So when this guy comes out of the bathroom, he has pants on, by the way. Rocco shoots him in the gut, but the guy's not done yet. So he and Rocco get into a tussle, and both the brothers are in a good position to help him out, but they start shouting at him, "Earn your stripes, Rock?"
Yeah.
And I was like, that is some bro bullshit. like earn your stripes? He has a man that's trying to kill him. So I guess it's his job to kill this guy. Okay, sure.
Yeah, they're making it personal now. Like, not only are we going to kill this guy, but you have to kill this guy.
Yeah, you have to do it. I mean, it's funny. Like, I don't remember Easy Rider all the way through. Have you seen it, by the way?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, Jack Nicholson's character in Easy Rider kind of reminded me of Rocco a bit. Rocco reminded me of him.
There you go.
Basically, it's like there's 2 super cool guys, and then they have like a hanger-on, like a guy who sees their coolness and wants to touch it in some way, even though it's probably not appropriate. Kind of got that vibe, although, I don't know, this Rocco guy, I don't like him. I was really upset about how much of the movie he's in, because he plays such a central role in the proceedings from like the halfway point onward.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where we get the iconic line for the movie. There was a firefight!
Yeah, so he's speculating that they came out the front door and they weren't expecting to see 6 guys fully armed, but it's actually El Duce smoking a cigar with sunglasses, and so back to them hanging upside down. They bust into this hotel room and shoot 9 guys hanging upside down. They can't shoot a fucking 6-foot Irishman 20 feet away with 3 guns.
Yeah, wearing a very heavy leather duster. I think he does like a pirouette at some point, but he is not that graceful.
No.
The blocking of the scene, I think, speaks to the budget, maybe, because there's one thing about this movie. It's that choir, like religious choir music, is not fair because it projects meaning onto that which has none.
Correct.
It's a very cheeky like parlor trick. And yeah, they do that all throughout this movie, where they put choir music over all these scenes of just stuff happening, and it tricks your brain into thinking that it all means something, that it carries weight, when in actuality it really doesn't. And the shootout, the blocking of it, they're stationary the entire time.
Yeah, they do not move.
There's no choreography. They just stand on the porch and fire straight ahead.
They both
Billy Connolly at least gets to like strafe 5 feet to the right or whatever.
There's no covering fire. Nobody like gets cover. They're standing in front of the door shooting a guy in the street, and the guy in the street is just standing in the street shooting at 3 guys in front of a door. Like there's
and because it's all in slow motion, it takes a couple of minutes to happen. When I don't even think anyone reloads. Like in real time, this would have taken 5 seconds, if that.
Yeah, this is all of them are dead. Like
everybody would be dead.
The guy, like at least 2 of the 3 saints would be dead, and the guy in the street is dead. But
yeah, instead, what happens is everybody takes, I think, 1 bullet apiece.
Yeah,
Rocco loses his pinky finger. Both the brothers take a bullet. Billy Connolly takes one in the shoulder. Funny detail here is that Greenlee actually, I think, throws out there like
maybe it was one guy.
Maybe it was just one guy with 6 guns, and Willem Dafoe is completely dismissive of him. But it's like in this instance, he's right.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think in the scene before at the strip club, he does mention like, oh, what if there is no connection? What if they're just a handful of bad people that these people felt it was necessary to kill? And he was correct, but again, he was dismissed. So it's another fun stab at that running gag. But most important detail that comes out of this is that Willem Dafoe flips the fuck out because he's not able to piece together the why and the who of all of this. And this is what you talked about, him like channeling his anger towards Troy Duffy into his performance. He throws a tirade and he goes stomping through the bushes, and he falls down at one point and he finds Rocco's finger and he pockets it.
Yeah, like Steph even asks, like, why wouldn't he put that in evidence back? And I'm like, I don't know. Why wouldn't he?
I don't either, because the character math doesn't quite add up. Because there's a few holes in the script.
Well, one question I have is, how are these even related? Like, they assume that they're related, but I don't see how any of these are related.
Again, it's a little muddled, because we didn't mention it, but Smecker and his gang of detectives, they go to the crime scene where Rocco shot the 3 people, and Smecker has a mini meltdown there, and I think he says like, "Fuck, I hate cold like crime scenes." And it's because it doesn't make sense, which is why he's irritated, because he's obviously very, very good at his job, but the math doesn't add up in any way that makes sense to him. But yeah, I don't understand why he would assume that these cases are all related, other than the timing, I guess.
Things really start to pick up here, and we get the finger in the pocket, and we get the boys. This is where your choir comes back in. The slow motion cauterizing of the wounds. You could have used some you could have done it in real time and done like some heavier like scarier music and make it seem like this is like harsh stuff, not like, oh, it's so poetic the way that they're.
What's funny is this was another scene that was in Overnight, where the scene in particular when Rocco runs into the kitchen and they're all wounded and they're all getting prepared to like address their wounds. We actually got to see a couple of seconds of them actually filming that, and it seemed like a lot more happened on the set that was cut out. Very very badly too, because like it's just like another one of those like fade to blacks, and then it's just a montage of the 3 of them applying a hot iron to their their bullet wounds with choir music playing over it to make it seem like it's some sort of righteous suffering of some sort. Really, it's just three bros in a kitchen burning each other.
Yeah. I think Smecker, now he's ran the fingerprint on Rocco. And he's figured out, he's like, oh, it's that fucking guy that was at the press conference. He's with those two Irish dudes. And Smecker kind of figures it out that it's these guys that are going around killing people, and they're deliberately going around and killing bad people. And he ends up, I think this is where he's at the bar.
Yeah.
And he has some choice words for a bartender. He's getting hammered. I guess he's kind of wrestling with the idea of possibly helping these guys. But he stumbles out of the bar, and he ends up going to a church, and I think Rocco notices him.
Yeah. The brothers are going to like attend service or something.
Yeah.
But Rocco hangs out, and he notices Smecker, and he pursues him on foot into the church. Curiously enough, or like maybe there's a church across the street. But they end up in a confessional together, and we get a interesting scene. I don't know if it's good, but it's interesting.
It's kind of funny.
Just because of the way it's arranged.
Yeah.
What we have here is we have Smecker passed out in a confessional, a priest being held up at gunpoint by Rocco in the priest's booth, and then in the confessional on the opposite side, I believe it's Sean Patrick Flannery grabs Rocco from behind, pulls him through the confessional, and has him at gunpoint. So it's like a train of people at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And all the while we're having like a Frasier-esque conversation where the priest is trying to counsel Smecker while trying to conceal the fact that there are two armed men behind him.
Yeah, so
it's a farce.
It's a farce. Basically, Smecker comes to the realization that it's okay for him to help these guys, even though it's vigilante justice. He still is going to go with it.
Yeah, he also wants to be the Punisher.
Yeah.
Which I don't know where the fuck that came from, where that sentiment came from, but okay. I'll allow it.
But yeah, so here's where I must have missed something, because they somehow get captured. Do they just take Rocco?
No, Kyle, you didn't miss anything. This is how it's presented. So we cut immediately from that scene to them calling Smecker on a payphone. They have his business card, and they call him, and he answers on a payphone. How?
Okay.
How? Yeah, so they call him, and now it's like an official alliance of sorts. Like they're actually coordinating with him because I guess they're going after Yakavetta now. And I believe Smecker goes to talk to DeStefano, the restroom valet, who tells him that he tells him something that like, oh, Yakovetta's like waiting for them. He's planning to ambush them. And then immediately we don't see any progression or anything. We just cut to them in the basement of Yakovetta's home, and they're being tortured.
Yeah.
Like there are some scenes missing here. That's a little frustrating.
So Yakovetta they've been torturing them. They say some shit, and then Yakovetta just shoots Rocco.
Yeah.
They
come to the conclusion that there's nothing to be gained from torturing them any further. And yeah, he just shoots Rocco. And Sean Patrick Flannery lets out his trademark horribly ear-piercing scream. This whole time I was like, why are they so upset? He was kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah, he wasn't great.
But yeah, they're super upset that Rocco's dead.
Also, I think El Duce has gone rogue.
Yeah, this was really strange because Yakovetta is talking to his goons in the foyer or whatever, and one of them's saying like, "Oh, Il Duce's coming. He's still out to perform the hit." He's like, and Yakovetta's he has some choice words in Italian, and you can tell he's like, "What the fuck? Like, we got these guys. We don't need him anymore." But yeah, apparently Il Duce doesn't have an off switch or something.
No.
So he's coming, and now he's going to kill his employers to get to his quarry?
Yeah, I guess so.
What?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of business deal is that?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's when I think Smecker shows up at the front door.
Yeah, so all the goons are armed and ready. Like, they're waiting for El Duce. They're like, we've got these guys down here. We got to wait for him. So, for some reason, Agent Smecker has decided to dress in drag. And I remember watching this when I was younger. I'm like, that's the least convincing woman I've ever seen. And I even asked my girlfriend to make sure that I was right. I'm like, is that the least convincing woman you've ever seen? She said, yeah, that's 100% a man. But this is my favorite line in the whole movie. It's offensive, but it's so funny because of how Joey sent me in for you guys to be entertainment. Like, the voice he's doing. But the best line is the goon is like, fucking, he's so awesome. He's always sending PRIMO box.
Yeah. That was what I wrote down. PRIMO box.
PRIMO box.
Jesus, PRIMO box.
That's the funniest line ever.
That is like spectacular in its phrasing.
And then
PRIMO
PRIMO box.
box. Jesus.
He starts making out with her. With what he assumes to be a her.
Yeah.
And he go inside, and his buddy's like, "What the fuck you doing?" He's like, "It's all right, man. We got enough guys. Let me just take care of this real quick." And he's like, "All right, cool, yeah,
all right,
yeah, man, hit it." So yeah, they go off into the bathroom, and the McManus brothers are trying to escape. The one brother is trying to kick the handcuffs off the other one, and some shenanigans happen in the bathroom, and Smecker ends up killing the guy. And I like this was where the slow motion was actually good. The guy figures out that it's a man, and Smecker kicks him in the nuts really quick and then turns around to grab his gun and shoots him. But I like this slow motion, him coming up. He's like blowing on his lips, like for some reason. It was a
good shot, and it captures, I guess, the emotional intensity of doing something like that for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell that like he's not enjoying it at that moment. It's just kind of like, oh, it's got to be done, and it happened.
I did like his too far.
Yeah,
too far.
I really enjoyed when he is outed, when his wig starts to slip off. His response, Smecker, he's like writhing on the tile floor, by the way, on his back. And his response, though, immediately when the guy says, "What the fuck?" in response to his wig slipping off, is to let out this hyper masculine.
It's pretty good.
It's like, I guess if the secret's out, you may as well just like go full Conan. But yeah, he kills that guy and heads downstairs, and he looks like he's poised to go on a killing spree. Because he does shoot one other guy. He's about to shoot a third, but then he notices that, oh, this man's throat has been slit already.
Yeah.
And then he gets pistol whipped by Il Duce from behind.
Yeah. So the McManus brothers manage to escape. They end up killing this goon. And I think they're saying the prayer over him when Il Duce comes around the corner with a gun. And upon hearing them, he puts his gun away, and he makes a little noise, and the McManus brothers hear him. And then he finally starts speaking, and he's saying their little family prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wouldn't you know it, Il Duce is their father.
Even when I was a teenager, I was like,
what? Yeah, I had the exact same response. I'm like, wait, what?
Just, what?
Okay.
Yeah, that's silly. One could even call it hackneyed. Unexpected as well, being as no mention is ever really made to their family other than that prayer, I guess.
And then we cut 3 months later.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Saints and Smecker and Il Duce, all four of them, invade a courtroom, and I guess Yakovet is doing some sort of deposition or something. There's some chatter in the courtroom suggesting that whatever he's being charged with, if anything, he will get off on because he's got a silver tongue and a lot of city officials or something in his back pocket. Dafoe sits out front. He's like observing the scene through a crack in the door. But the McManuses, all three of them, they barge into the courtroom and hold everyone hostage, demand that like all the news cameras be placed on them, and this is just utter insanity.
Yeah, that's a big Batman speech about how, like, we're going to kill you if you're bad.
I mean, this is like an Al-Qaeda kind of video or something. Like,
it's not good.
This is it's not good.
It's really irresponsible.
And also, I noticed that the Greek detective guy, the guy with the complicated name, he helps them out too. He like pulls a fire alarm. So so he's helping them too.
He does help. I forgot about that.
But I can't remember like exact words that are spoken in this scene. But it's like chilling kind of stuff where it's like, hang on, you actually believe this shit that you're saying? that what you're doing is justified and righteous? Like they're you need these people to bear witness to your as what Francis Dollarhide would say, great becoming.
Yeah.
Do you see? Do you see?
Do you see? Yeah, this is really irresponsible because one, you're putting your face out there like, oh, look, we have all their descriptions because they did this on camera. They're like, two, we're not going away. We're gonna keep doing this shit, even though you know what we look like and that we're Irish and that we're in Boston. We're still gonna keep doing this shit.
Here's my address. Here's my phone number.
Yeah, like, what are you guys gonna do? You guys are gonna do shit about it because we're right. We're right. And the movie, they shoot him right there in the courtroom. All three of them, like the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. Like the little Trinity there, and they just they pop him right there in the courtroom, and then they're in a hotel room with their da. He says some shit, and then the movie's over pretty much. And I mean, besides some what do you call just some interviews, street interviews with people, what they think about the Boondock Saints.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily swap in the Saints with Batman or the Punisher. Yeah, and it's basically that, or people giving their thoughts on these vigilantes. And one of these people is, of course, the I think the producer / director of Overnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
You can't. It's one of those unfortunate movies where it's like you can't watch it, and be reminded of
the awe
its contemporaries. Where it's like, Leon the Professional and Pulp Fiction and True Romance and Reservoir Dogs. It all kind of stinks of that, but it's not quite that.
No. It'll definitely pop up if you look up, like, oh, what Pulp Fiction? What other movies come out around there? Oh, Leon the Professional, Boondock Saints. It's not even close to the same caliber of a movie. It's not bad. It's not very good. There could have been we could have been explained a little bit more, a little bit less violence towards women.
For sure.
It would have been helpful, but there's still some fun stuff in here. It wasn't too bad going back.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I really enjoyed it. I mean, Willem Dafoe is just such a talented actor that he made his scenes work.
Absolutely.
That Mr. De La Roca can just leave. Like, I just don't need him. Is he in the second one, by the way?
Oh yeah.
God damn it!
Yeah, he is in the second one, and he's trying to hawk that third, the Boondock Saints Origins.
That's right. I think you sent me that video of
that Ponzi scheme. Yeah,
somebody lost some money. Like, I don't know who actually tried to buy the box. It certainly wasn't PRIMO box, but
no, it wasn't a PRIMO. That's so funny if it was called PRIMO box. The Boondock Saints PRIMO box.
It's like, send us $10. Send a $10 money order in the mail, unlabeled. And we'll send you a PRIMO box.
We'll give you the letter that says you'll get it when it comes out. Like, they're trying to
get it when it's done.
They're trying to sell
which is never.
Yeah, they're trying to get you to pay for. So yeah, I want a Boondock Saints 3, but apparently there's not a Boondock Saints 3. But they were working allegedly on a Boondock Saints Origins of how they got there to where they were, which would be entertaining, I'm sure, because it was supposed to be written and directed by Troy Duffy. But I don't think that thing's going to see the light of day because they have David De La Rocco, whatever, trying to get you to purchase an exclusive box set of the series before it even comes out on any streaming device. And I'm like, my God, how I want to know how much did they make $20 off of this? Like, it's bad.
Some idiot sent them some money.
I kind of want to send them money just to see what happens.
And you get a box.
Yeah, I kind of want to just see what happens. Like, maybe I'll get something. But it was an exclusive, only for a limited time only, where you're going to be offered that.
Yeah, only true fans of the Saints can possess this box.
I'm actually going to look into that after this. I'm going to see if I can find it.
I'm going to get that box.
I'm going to get that box. That PRIMO box. Jesus. Well, yeah.
So yeah, this is a. I think you were very much in the right. This movie is much more fascinating if you've seen Overnight.
And I'm glad that we got to watch that documentary because it was eye opening, and it's pretty incredible that this finished product somehow we got this competent movie. We'll say that it's competent.
Well, now that's why I'm excited about part 2.
Oh, buddy,
because I want to see like why it's like the Boondock Saints generally has a positive reputation. Generally, Boondock Saints 2, nobody has anything good to say about.
It's not even this close to the same movie. Like, it's fascinating. I can't wait for you to watch it. I'm not looking forward to rewatching it.
You brought this on yourself, Kyle.
Judd Nelson is in 2 of my favorite bad movies. That's saying something.
Judd Nelson's in there. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I guess tune in next time for the conclusion of our evening with Troy Duffy, where we'll be watching the Boondock Saints 2.
Yes.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Peace.